Coronavirus free.
Oh, thank God. Great to
There
hear.
you are.
Hi, Michael.
Shabbat
I
shalom.
like the background.
Thank you. I just finished watching the clergy conversation because I was getting my COVID vaccine on Wednesday. Another excellent presentation.
Oh, I love that. We love those conversations.
We really do enjoy those. I'm so glad that you guys watch them.
And it was my bar mitzvah parsha, so it was especially nice this week.
Oh, I love that. Shabbat shalom, Gloria.
Want to sit down?
Oh, the Goldberg. Shabbat shalom.
You go watch.
Are you in Florida? Now it's on to another.
Come on.
Shabbat shalom, Wayne. I have a sense. Oh my gosh, and we have. I don't know if everybody knows this. We have Luke Skywalker in our midst.
Everybody's gonna see. No, they're not gonna see.
I love that. Shabbat shalom, Jeff.
Huh? You want to light, see the candles lit?
So I know that Rabbi Gelman is going to gather us, give us a little direction.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, friends. It is so wonderful to be together. We will have the live transcript on when English is happening. You could always turn that off if it is distracting. If you're joining us on Facebook, there's an option to turn it on there as well. And the prayer book link is down there in the chat. As we're going to begin with a song on page 129 called Ki Eshmera Shabbat.
Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereini. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereini. Oti leomeyad beino veini. Oti leomeyad beino veini. It's so sweet. It's like as I observe and keep Shabbat, God watches over me. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereini. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereini. Oti leomeyad beino veini. Oti leomeyad beino veini. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. I always say, sometimes at Morning Minyan when we do this, and I've had a really cheerful morning, I remind everybody that this feels like a rainbow when you sing this. You can make a rainbow like this. Ready? Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It is so wonderful to always be together each and every Shabbat, but especially on this Shabbat, as this is the international highest refugee Shabbat. Highest is the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, and they have this special Shabbat each and every year, encouraging communities, organizations, and synagogues throughout the world to think of and commemorate the plight of refugees and our responsibility to them. Now, a number of years ago, very soon in my work here at Temple Sholom, I was emailing with these people who I didn't really know too well. All I knew was that my wife and I were to meet Jed Silberg, Joanne Potashnik, Janet Dale, Kathy Sticks, Susie Linker, and a number of others at an apartment here in Chicago to help set it up. We were there because Temple Sholom was sponsoring and continues to sponsor a Rohingya refugee family as they settled here in Chicago. Now it had taken a lot of time and effort to secure the honor of helping this family settle through this incredible organization of HIAS. And 53 years earlier from that day, my wife Mayan's grandparents were also working with HIAS. But this time, it was 1956, and Joseph and Mary Eckstein, Holocaust survivors, were now fleeing the Hungarian Revolution. And they were being ushered under the auspices of HIAS to their new life in the United States as refugees. I'd like to lead us into our prayer for lighting our Shabbat candles with a blessing put together from HIAS. Shamor v'zachor. These are the two representations of our candles for Shabbat. Zachor, we remember. After the Jewish people's original journey as refugees, when we fled our biblical oppressors in Egypt, we were given the gift of Shabbat rest. Today, we remember Shabbat by linking together ourselves to those who came before us, a people who time and time again were forced to leave home in order to practice Judaism openly and freely. As we remember our own ancestors' journeys, we think of the millions of refugees and asylum seekers around the world today, still fleeing violence and persecution just because of who they are and where they're living. Shamor, we observe. We observe Shabbat by creating sacred spaces in our homes, in our virtual synagogues, in all the places that give us refuge. We hope that the lights we kindle over these holy hours will illumine a path to a world made whole once more, a world in which our rest on this day will inspire us to action on all the days that follow. We observe, we remember, and now, inspired by our history and our faith, we act. Together, we speak out against those who close the doors of our country to refugees and asylum seekers. We will welcome newcomers to our communities, helping them to settle into new lives with ease. We will ground ourselves in our shared values, living them each and every day as we fight for justice for all. May the flickering of these lights remind us of the divine spark that is within each of us, all of us, equally deserving of dignity and respect, no matter who we are, what we look like, what we believe, or where we call home. Shamor v'zachor. We observe and we remember. May the transformative power of these Shabbat lights embolden us in our pursuit of justice so that we may transform our world. As our cantor will help us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And in honor of an incredible upcoming bat mitzvah, we're going to invite up, I'll stop our sharing here. We're going to invite up Danielle Smith along with her mother, Karen Melman Smith, to help us honor Shabbat and its holiness with the words of Kiddush, which can be found on page 100.
Are we unmuted? Ready?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho b'ahava v'ratzon hinheltanu Yikaron lemate bereshit, ki hu yom tehillah, lemikra kodesh, seher tziyat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'harta, ve'atanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kadshecha, Ratzon hinhaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen. Danielle, I'm very, very blessed and honored to be with you tomorrow and to be able to have a second Simcha with the Smith family. I love it. See you tomorrow,
So
girls.
exciting. It'll be incredible tomorrow, Danielle. We're looking forward to it. We're going to continue with welcoming more and more love and joy into our spaces with Lecha Dodi on page 138 with verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Shabbat nekabela, shamoy v'zachor v'dibor echad, hishmianu el am yuchad, Adonai echad, u'shmo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, v'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoriri, kiva orech kumiori, uri shir daveri, kavod Adonai alayech nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. We rise at the Spirit and we welcome in the most beautiful bride of all, the Sabbath. Oh, even shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'zola, toch ha'minei am segula, bo'ichala bo'ichala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
With lifted spirits, we turn to page 146 for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Lai, 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 lai.
Page 148. Baruch atah Adonai.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Emet. As we turn now to page 158, we sing the words of a song that we call our redemption song, but it easily could have been called our refugee song, because this is the time, this was the moment that we as a Jewish people became not only refugees, meaning leaving from one land, seeking home in another, but also it was a time where we went from being an Erev Rav, this mixed multitude of people, to coming together in purpose. And what was that purpose? It was to constantly be a welcoming people, a people filled with love. In fact, we're told 36 times that we welcome and love the strangers, for we know what it is to be a stranger. And so we linked together in purpose, knowing that it is not only God who redeems, but we who are made in God's image bring about redemption, the kind of redemption we sing about here.
Oh, say, Nora, Tehilo, oh, say, Fele, Malchutecha, Rauvanecha, okay.
And as we seek to rest our heads in a place of safety and peace, we turn to page 677 for the words of "O Guide My Steps," a beautiful interpretation of our Hashkivenu.
Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Ufros aleinu guide our steps and help us find our way. We need your shelter now. Rock us in your arms and guide our steps and help us make each day a song of praise to you. Rock us in your arms and guide our steps. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps.
Our steps are guided with purpose and holiness as we keep our Shabbat here as a community. We turn to page 162 and sing the words of Vishamru.
Guys, we haven't gotten wild with this in a while. And I am feeling pretty feisty without this neck brace on. So join me. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We rise in spirit for our tefillah, page 164.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים וחסד. מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל.
הקדוש בשמך הקדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. a kavanah, an intention before our silent prayer. You are with us, O God, in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence. Therefore, O God, continue to be the still, clear voice within us, so that when doubts trouble us, or anxiety makes us tremble, or when pain clouds the mind, we can then look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you in the courage, insight, endurance to do your will, to be of service to ourselves and others. May we call that to mind within our hearts in this silent prayer.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
As we turn to page 371 for our Misha Berach, I'm going to share a lesson from this week's parasha, Ki Tisa, this week's Torah portion, in that we see that Moses takes these Shnei Luchot, these two tablets on which the 10 commandments were inscribed, and he shatters them. He shatters them because God tells him to go down to the foot of the mountain where people are making a golden calf. And there is the belief, some say, that he did this because he was angry, that he was infuriated and he broke those. But I think there are many lessons here. One of which is that Moses took these tablets that could have been seen as perfect, unbreakable. They could have become some kind of an idol. And Moses says, we can't do that. Things that are perfect are also breakable. We, all of us made in the image of God, have bodies and minds and spirits that are perfect and beautiful and breakable, fragile at times. And so we need to see the lesson in this week's parasha or this week's Torah portion is that we saw that Moses went up and had a second set of tablets. We only have one body. But what did Moses do? They say that Moses put the broken tablets and the whole tablets together in one ark. And never did the Jewish people go anywhere without seeing their brokenness and how whole they were, and always prayed that there would be a way of being able to take these fragile pieces of ourselves and to see that we can pray and work to making ourselves whole, body, mind, and spirit. So in that way, we pray now for healing of body, of mind, of spirit, for comfort, for strength, for love. I invite you to share the names of those who are in need of healing. You could share them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and share them out loud.
Johnny Tepper.
Sarah Golub.
You can go. Anybody?
Frank Friedman.
And Miller, Bachi Ben David.
Stephen Tatiner.
John Price.
Marvin Silberman.
Pat Pisacaro.
Fred Fish.
Judy Arkin.
Jerry Silver. Rasmus in Israel.
We add to those names Heather Sacker and Ira Levinson, Suzanne Cohn, Don Sable, Jim Clemens, Barbara Sussman, Ella Wexler, Rochelle Baddock, Elaine Baddock, Jonathan Spitz and Christy, Rabbi Ellen Weinberg Dreyfus, Liviana Bree Sulzer, Jack, Donna, and Doris Spiegler, Kenny Zilberbrand, Jeff Corman, Stan Gross, Elizabeth DeBrun, Alec Jaladen, Dear Lunn, Susie Schaub, Aaron Buskard, Patricia Tischler and Sheena Rao, Mahalia Subhani, Don Dempsey, James Amick, and Matthew Lamp, Erwin Snyder, George Williams, Earl Shemansky, Sarah Golub and June and Dennis, Dale Cabot and Flo Bernberg, Susan Levine and Craig Burke, Laura Cortez, Annie Oliva, Dee Dee Cohn, Alec Betzel, and Avner Drucker, Judy Arkin, Peter Lang, Jack Hertz, the patriarch of the Strauss family, as well as Judge Robert Baharik. We hold all of them in our hearts as we sing these words of healing, our Misha Berach, again on page 371.
Misha Berach Avotenu Makor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Beirach Imotenu Makor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Amen. One of my distinct privileges and sometimes challenges as a rabbi at Temple Sholom is that I get to teach our 6th grade Hebrew school class as they begin to prepare for their B'nai Mitzvah. We meet twice a week online and go over prayers together, reciting and discussing their meaning. Recently, we reviewed Ve'ahavta, the prayer that starts with the command to love God. Can you be commanded to feel a certain way? I ask them. Why would God try so hard to tell us how to feel? I wish that I could report that a deep and meaningful conversation ensued, but instead they kind of shrugged their shoulders and stared at me a little blankly. I understand, because it's a hard question. It's one I struggle with myself. What does it mean to be commanded to love? This question is particularly on my mind this week as Jews around the country celebrate Refugee Shabbat, an event, as Rabbi Gelman said earlier, which is established by HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. This question, what does it mean to be commanded to love, is on my mind because the Torah tells us that we should love refugees and immigrants. Refugees and migrants and immigrants. It doesn't just tell us to be nice to them or to create good policies around them or house them, although I think it does imply that we should do all of those things as well. It tells us to love them. Deuteronomy 10:19 states, "And you shall love the refugee, for you were refugees in the land of Egypt." Now you might be thinking, Rabbi, I've heard that verse before, and the word is stranger. It's you shall love the stranger. But when scholars look closely at that Hebrew word, ger, and study what it could have meant in the context of its time, some argue that the closest, most accurate translation is refugee or migrant. We don't know the exact translation of this word, but we do know that a ger was somebody who was forced to leave their home. They were somebody who lived as a resident alien in a new land. They were the minority, someone who was made through natural or political circumstances to travel to a new place, to navigate a new culture and society, and to try and survive in completely foreign circumstances. Many of us as Jews don't have to work terribly hard to imagine ourselves as refugees. In fact, some of us may have been refugees. But it's also in many of our family stories, in the way we reenact the Exodus from Egypt at the Seder every year. We like to keep this idea fresh in our people's collective memory. And yet, as American citizens, it can sometimes be easy to lose perspective. As citizens, we have rights, we have homes. Many of us hopefully have savings accounts. Some of us have titles or specialized professions or networks of people who support us. We dig roots for ourselves. We plant ourselves in community and family and friends. We build homes. We plan for the future. We assume stability. What happens when that's taken away? What if we had to leave everything behind and cross a border or a desert or a sea? What if we had to start over in a new language, with a new culture and a new land? This might feel unlikely, but in a recent New York Times op-ed, the writer Charles M. Blow cited a recent report. He said, across the United States, some 162 million people, nearly 1 in 2, will most likely experience a decline in the quality of their environment, namely more heat and less water. For 93 million of them, the changes could be particularly severe. And by 2070, our analysis suggests if carbon emissions rise at extreme levels, at least 4 million Americans could find themselves living at the fringe, in places decidedly outside the ideal niche for human life. I ask you to imagine the possibility that we or our children will one day be migrants or refugees, not to try and scare you, but because I believe that when God asks us to love the refugee, God is just asking us to not put so much distance between ourselves and the people who have experienced that plight. The text reminds us to love the refugees because we were refugees. Some of us may feel like refugees right now, and some of us could become refugees again. So many times in the Jewish calendar, from Sukkot to Yom Kippur to when we read this text, we're asked to try and straddle stability and instability, permanence and impermanence, security and vulnerability. The blessing of being rooted in a place and a country and a community is extraordinary, and for some of us, it can come with a loss of perspective. The commandment to love the refugee tries to help us cut through the sturdy, reliable, sometimes complacent reality that stability allows us to assume. When we love the refugee, we see ourselves in them and see their reality reflected in ours. Temple Sholom has done incredible work towards loving the refugee, as Rabbi Gelman outlined in the beginning of the service. Started in January 2017, our congregants went through trainings, raised money, worked around and through travel bans, and advocated for refugee rights. Led by Kathy Sticks, Susie Lenker, Joanne Potashnik, and many others, a team of people worked to resettle a refugee family who were fleeing the Syrian war. As we look forward beyond COVID, we know that we as a temple will continue to work hard to love the refugee, to explore the various ways we can live out that commandment as a community. Luma Mufla, an immigrant and daughter of refugees who started a school for refugees, reminds us that part of the way that we can love refugees is not by feeling sorry for them, but by believing in them. She says, I work with kids whose journeys are haunting, but what I get to see every day is hope, resilience, determination, a love of life, and appreciation for being able to rebuild their lives. We will not feel sorry for refugees. We will love them. And in doing so, we will see ourselves in their vulnerability and we will grow in our humanity. Shabbat Shalom. We turn now to some announcements that we have. What's coming up in the next few weeks?
I think I'm going to start us off here. Just coming up tonight is the Or Hadash late service. So if you'd like to get some extra prayer and some extra community, some extra beauty in your Shabbat, that service starts at 7:45.
Rabbi Gelman, why don't you keep going on that roll?
Great. So on Sunday, there are two incredible guest scholars coming in. Our first is Dr. Lisa M. Schulman, whose talk will be Healing Your Brain After Loss, a neurologist's perspective. And Dr. Lisa Schulman has been, one of my friends said, hey, Scott, you should really check out this talk. I was like, oh, actually, she's coming to our temple on Sunday, so I'm gonna check it out before you do. There's a lot of excitement around this talk, especially how the brain is involved in heartbreak, as she is the professor of neurology at the University of Maryland and author of the book Before and After Loss. And then also another guest scholar. So that first one's at 9:30 on Sunday. The next one's at 10:45 on Sunday with Dr. John Greenberg, who will be speaking about fruits of freedom, the Torah, Flora, Haggadah. As so much of Passover and our Pesach Seder is rooted in the history of Jewish food and agriculture, Dr. Greenberg is going to present some of this kind of forgotten Pesach lore that he recovered during his research for this unique and important new Haggadah. We're really excited to learn about all of this on Sunday at 10:30 and then at 10:45.
All right, some other very exciting things coming up. One is that on Monday evening, we have our next Shalem conversation on issues surrounding race and racism that we've been having throughout the year, but anybody is welcome to join. We are going to be specifically talking about encountering racism on social media and what to do, how to respond, when to respond, when to not respond, that kind of thing. So would love to see you there. And I'm also very excited that the Women of Temple Sholom's annual Women's Seder is coming up. It's just going to be an incredible opportunity to hang out and celebrate Passover with a bunch of awesome women and people. And I believe that the deadline for registering is on Monday. And there's going to be great food, and you should absolutely come.
Cantor, you have some really special classes coming up. You want to share?
Woo! Yes, I do. You'd be surprised, everybody. My favorite part of being a cantor is not the singing. I actually love teaching. I specifically love adult ed, and I am going to be jumping into the Wednesday morning study group at 10 o'clock this Wednesday. I always do a smattering of sacred prayer, music, worship service, talking about choreography, talking about the different kinds of services that we have throughout the week, and just sort of going through the skeleton of it. So I keep building on that, and I love this group. So I'll see you guys on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And then the next thing that's happening is going to be next week for our Shabbat Mishpacha. We are featuring our junior and senior kindergarten class. Could there be anything cuter? So please tune in.
Well, and I'm very excited to share that you still have time to be able to sign up to come to our Abba at Home Temple Sholom fundraiser. It will take place on March 13th. And you can still register all the way up until March 8th. It is going to be so much fun. We're going to hear from CJ Jacobson and eat some of the wonderful food from Abba, a wonderful restaurant, Mediterranean, Israeli style food. It's delicious. We're also going to hear a little bit about pizza, the obsession of Steve Dolinsky, and he's going to share some of his experience as the Hungry Hound. And we're also going to be able to participate in a raffle to win many prizes. The grand prize, though, is the mirror from Lululemon. Who wouldn't want that? And so please make sure to join us on March 13th and sign up by March 8th. With that, Rabbi Singer, back to you.
Yes, we rise in body and in spirit and turn to Aleinu on page 586.
Aleinu shabeach ladon hakol latet girula yotzer breshit shelo asanu kegoye haratzot lo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chalkenu kahem וגור עלינו ככל המונם ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We turn now to the moment in our service where we honor the memories of those who have made an incredible impact in our lives, people who we miss very much. If you're thinking of somebody who has died in the last week, in the last month, in the last year, or in last years at this time, please feel free to share their name out loud or to type it in the chat.
Lillian Miller.
Howard Vian. Sandra Goingshore.
Sherry Chemical Goodman.
Michael Hooper.
He died last year already.
Rebecca Luker.
I don't know anybody.
Yeah, to those names, Jeffrey Spiegler, Dr. Susan Sipes, Noah Corman, Dr. Marna Mula, Ken Kostal, Henry Schaefer, Jordan Feldman, Fabiola York, Peter Hind, Kenneth Altschuler, Barry Siegel, Benji Harris, John M. Griffith, Rebecca Luker, Helga Gutman, Nate Copald, as well as Marty Ross, Stephen Summers, Frederick Edwin Lieber, Dennis Shapiro, Ted Blemon, Lois Jarvis, Adele Asher, Karen Goodman Battis, Dorothy Zussel Burke, Paula Bernstein, Clayton Augustus Bowen, Arnold Briskman, Thomas Clark, Seymour Krasko, Irving Crown, David Cups, Rosalind Dalek, Avraham Darshan, Aaron Delinsky, Melissa Evan, Milton Felber, Sylvia Feldbein, Max Führer, Arlene Ginsberg, Sandra Goldberg Granroth, Cheryl Greenfield, Flora Gracebach, Ruth Gutman, Andrew Halpern, Jack Hurst, Esther Janis, Lillian Kais, Arthur Katz, Samuel C. Klein, Zev Koren, Howard Blackie Crafser, Pat Lasko, Celia Levin, Herbert S. Manning, Stephen Marovitz, Marlene B. Nicholas, Mary Naiman, Norman Oyering, Adela Oprea, Ruth Pinzoff, Jeremy Reich, Jimmy Reicherzer, Marion Rokas, Al Ritberg, Norman Nachman Ross, Ruth Rubin, Harold Rudich, Francine Schaefer, Henry Michael Schaefer, J. A. Scheinkop, Richard Skock, Samford Stoll, Steffi Louis Stretton, Darlene Sutz, Martin William Trannon, Bessie Ullman, William Walton, and I would like to correct and add Karen Batis. We turn to our Mourner's Kaddish on page 591 and rise in body or in spirit.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעמי עמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, ואמירן בעלמא ואמרו, יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו, עושה שלום ממרואיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו, אמן. עושה שלום ממרואיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen.
Wish you a Shabbat of peace and rest and enjoyment. And I believe we're ending with Adon Olam. Is that right?
Yeah, it is.
Awesome.
We're going for it. I mean, I want you to feel a sense of nostalgia tonight, okay? But at the same time, I think you need to be reminded of the very, very last lines of this prayer. Into your hands I entrust my spirit when I sleep and when I wake, and with my spirit, my body also. Adonai is with me, I shall not fear. Adon olam asher malach בטרם כל יציר נברא, ליד נעשה וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ויחרק ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו ולהכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת תשען ביעירה, ואם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.